Yes. Oh, we've done it. Welcome to the Artifact Podcast, episode 2. My name is SUNSfan, joined by Conrad, Slacks, and Swim. Hello, friend.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi. I'm great. Good to be on.
How about you introduce... Why are you lower now in audio? Talk.
Am
He's
I?
whispering.
I can just start
Alright,
shouting
that's
for
good.
the rest of the podcast.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay, great.
All right, Slacks, you're banned from doing that. I fucking hate that sound so much.
It just started. I just started doing it 5 minutes ago. I can't do it anymore.
All right.
It's not fair.
Swim is wondering what he got himself into. Can you introduce yourself for people that perhaps are from the Dota audience specifically and don't follow card games that closely?
SUNSfan, I know exactly what I got myself into.
Yes.
So I'm Swim. I'm a Gwent streamer. Background in other card games though. If you haven't heard of Gwent, you probably haven't heard of me. But I've also played Hearthstone, Magic, Faria, Duelist, any of these digital card games under the sun. I think I even played Elder Scrolls Legends.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
What's Faria? I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
before.
right. Exactly. That's
Oh,
exactly.
sorry. Didn't mean it like that, friend.
So what I want to do in the intro, instead of doing it in the outro, is tell everybody how they can watch or listen to this later so that they can do that beforehand. So the podcast is now available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, pretty much everything. So if you use a podcast program of any kind, it should be available. If not, just tweet at me, I suppose. The VOD on Dota Cinema. And if you don't have a podcast program or anything like that, you just want to listen to the audio, autofaction.gg/TAP. So the acronym for our show is TAP. What do you guys think about that? Is that okay?
Tap.
I'd tap that.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that kind of a magic term more than anything, though?
That it is?
Yeah, tapping.
Yeah. It's when you turn your heroes into defense position.
Yeah.
See,
Oh.
player here.
Okay. The
Great
RSS
connection,
feed
dude.
is also there. And one last announcement before we actually begin the podcast, although I guess we've technically started. For people that watched the stream with me and Slacks yesterday, I want to apologize to you, and you need to apologize to us, okay? And I want an apology from Slacks specifically because he made
What
me
did
do
I
this.
do?
So obviously things weren't handled the greatest way.
What?
And
I thought we did great.
well,
Where's this coming from?
under the circumstances, we did great. I agree. There were 2,300 something cards to go through. We went through half, and I wanted to kill you. You wanted to kill me. We were gonna announce the winners today, but we don't have time. So we're gonna have to delay that just a little bit to be able to make sure that we can actually review them all properly. But on the show, we will show a few of the cards that we really, really liked, and interested what Conrad and Swim also think of them. They're super legit, I think. So
Yeah, the last like 5 reveals.
oh, yeah.
excited.
And then we'll talk about the actual reveals of
Oh yeah.
which is what everybody's here. Nobody wants to see us.
Oh.
I know. So one thing, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but because I think the reveal stuff is going to take quite a bit of time. But I wanted to piggyback off a Swim here and talk about some of the very big differences that you've noticed with other card games versus Artifact.
Yeah, I think Artifact is a game that plays, I mean, as we all know, very differently from other card games on the market right now, right? There's a lot of really interesting nuances with the initiative system and the lane system, which are just features that other card games really don't offer. Certain games, like Elder Scrolls Legends tried a lane system, but it really didn't work out nearly as well as I feel personally like Artifacts does. It adds a lot of depth to the game. I think that in terms of kind of the main implications of these systems, one of them is that when you compare it to Hearthstone and Magic, you're not really playing on curve quite as much. And I think they've really nailed that. People aren't talking about this. Everyone knows that lanes are cool because you have to choose what lane to commit to, right? The really cool thing is that a lot of other card games fall too much under just like playing on curve. And in Artifact, it really bypasses that because you draw 2 cards and have 3 mana pools.
Yeah, we were
There's
talking
a lot
about
more
this.
decisions about passing. Yeah, absolutely.
You and I have played a shit ton versus each other
Yes.
recently. It's been the 50-50, right?
Yes.
Ratio.
Pretty much.
Oh, I was actually kidding. I think you've been beating me a little bit more, but I
I
appreciate you.
I was trying to be. I didn't. Well, I thought you might not have.
Conrad and I, on the other hand, that was... You got wrecked, buddy. You got
Oh,
wrecked real
okay.
good.
Oh, well,
I'm
we'll
just
play a
kidding.
few more matches.
Conrad's
We played some aggro decks. It was fun. I enjoyed those games a
Yeah,
lot.
but what Swim is talking about is super interesting because it's not something I really
Well-
thought about.
If I may, for our new card players, because many of us are from Dota, not me,
Yes.
of course, but what exactly is a curve for the
Okay,
people in the
so
chat?
no, that's very good. See, that's professional. So in Magic and Hearthstone, so much of the game is built around just utilizing the resource of mana, right? You gain 1 mana a turn, whether the land system or Hearthstone's crystal system. And if you spend more mana than your
Crystals.
opponent, you kind of win the game. Like you have to, in a really good majority of situations. So you kind of build decks around just using all of your mana every turn, and it kind of simplifies the game. In Artifact, you won't use nearly as much mana. You will make decisions about when to pass, when to sacrifice mana to play for initiative, how to distribute your tools better. Like there's a lot more nuance to decision making.
Like at PAX, it's something that we really noticed, where players would just play something that's in their hand just to play it, because that's like when I play Hearthstone, that kind of is how it is, right? Maybe not 100%, it's like 90% or something like that. So it is quite a bit of a different experience for sure.
Yeah, it's. Oh, sorry,
I'd like to say, just for people that don't know, I've never seen or played a different card game than Artifact.
I believe it.
I think that card games are lame, but just kidding. But so I'm very interested in picking your brain in this podcast because I don't know what all the lessers have been doing all these years. So this will be interesting for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Stop trolling, Slacks.
I'm not trolling. I'm just talking. I'm getting them used to it. We're here for like 2 hours, baby.
I did not sign up for
That's
this.
not the plan. 2 hours. Go ahead.
I did not sign up for 2 hours.
Very lonely. Please don't go. All right. Anyway, so yeah, this is so. Can I ask you a cool question? What's one thing that you miss from other card games that ain't in the Artifact, huh?
Interesting. I would say kind of like a lot of forms of I don't know if I can actually answer that question. That might might be a little NDA territory.
How about this one? This is an easy one because we talked about this last week. When new players get into the game, they really miss mulligans. I said that after like I felt the same way coming from Hearthstone, but then after a couple weeks of playing, I completely forgot about it and I don't even care anymore. So interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's something that if you come from another card game, it will be very, very noticeable at first. No opening hand mulligan. It's kind of a meme that Yu-Gi-Oh kind of has the same problems, and a lot of people despise that about Yu-Gi-Oh. I think that it's hard to say. It's definitely not as big of a problem as it seems at first, but at the same time, I think they easily could add like a simple mulligan system, and that could work pretty well for the game, honestly.
Conrad, do you agree with that?
I don't know. I kind of look at it as something like it's just another thing you have to be thinking about when you're in the deck building process for Constructed, right? Like, there's a chance I can't mulligan, so I have to build my deck accordingly to try and maximize the amount of chances that I would play a card on that first turn. Or, you talking about mana ramp earlier, you do still want to play cards because, like, when you have 5-7 mana cards, it feels terrible when you get to the, until you get to there.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with mulligans, let me tell you. But for those in the chat who we're talking about, what exactly is a mulligan?
So at the start of a card game, normally you have an opportunity to exchange cards in your hand for redraws. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Like Hearthstone, Magic, and Gwent all have radically different mulligans.
Oh, so it's a redo.
Yeah, it essentially makes sure that you have a better chance of having a more optimal opening hand, right?
Oh,
but
yeah,
how often...
I remember those. When I was in grade school, when I was in kindergarten, we got to do redos on all the games all the time. But when I grew up, I fucking dealt with it like a grown-ass man. So that's interesting. So all their games have that. That's cool. But okay, go ahead.
Have you guys ever felt like, because we can talk kind of vaguely about this, because I personally have not thought of an experience where I felt this way, where the opening hand, I've had some bad opening hands for sure, but I've never felt like I lost because of it. I don't know if it's because of the decks I'm playing or if the mulligan just actually doesn't really matter that much because you build around it via the deck creation and whatnot.
I think it definitely makes games harder. I just remember a game I played at PAX and I ended up with 3 Thunderhide packs in one hand, and I was like, oh, this is pretty terrible starting hand here. And you know, I had some trouble, and I got to a point where if the opponent had a certain card in their hand, they could have won the game. But I guess they didn't draw theirs. So, you know, I think it also evens out, right? Especially when you're playing in BO3s and larger scale stuff. These decks, you know, you're going to see somebody be able to win one game very easily, and then the next game, perhaps, you know, based on how they built their deck, end up causing, you know, significant issues with ramping up and bad hands, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to talk about aggro decks. So let's preface this first by saying that the PAX decks, I would not say, especially the blue black, do not, for me, is not really a rush deck of any kind.
Yes.
I mean, it is kind of a rush in some respects, but it's not consistent. It's not what I would consider a normal aggro, right? And I know Swim and I have been playing a lot of aggro versus each other, and Conrad as well. So interested to hear your guys' thoughts on how aggro feels in Artifact.
I think aggro is, and this goes back to comparing it to kind of other mana-based card games. I think aggro feels really good in Artifact. Actually, as someone who plays a lot of Hearthstone and Magic, the common complaint is like this idea of smorking, which is like brain dead, hit face. Artifact doesn't have that at all. Aggro requires a ton of decision making because it's very mobility based. You have to be able to jump your heroes around and often debate people into lanes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting parts of Artifact to me is the deployment phase, which I don't think really exists in a lot of other games. It's almost like poker sometimes, you know, where you can all in on one part and, you know, potentially leave one lane barren and hopefully see if you can beat the other person to the punch, either hitting 80 or 2 towers really quick.
Yep.
I played a little bit of Hearthstone back in the day, and you feel kind of helpless when you're playing against a Smork deck, right? A face rush deck. I need to stop looking at Slax's face. His face animations are really annoying.
Could you explain Smork deck for us plebs?
Smork is when you go face. I don't actually know it. What it's like? You're so dumb. You're an orc. Is that the meme?
Yeah.
Just hit face. That's all you
SM
do?
orc.
Because I know SM orc is an
black
emote
red
on
deck.
Twitch.
Okay, black red deck. Got it.
So anyway, no, but the
Go
feeling
ahead.
is way different in Hearthstone because you feel super helpless a lot of the times because you might just have a bad matchup. I mean, you could still have a bad matchup in Artifact, but there's always something you can do. There's always a decision you could have made because there's 3 boards, right? Like the best that I've ever done with a rush deck is win on turn 2. That's pretty much like the best possible scenario, but everything has to align, and it doesn't happen very often, you know.
Yeah. I can imagine it now, actually.
Yes, there are a few cards that have yet to be announced that really help with that. That's for sure. So one thing I did want to talk about, and we kind of alluded this a bit in the first episode, the direction of Artifact, all of everyone's opinion. Maybe some of you have changed your opinion since last time, because it has been a bit, of how other streamers are going to approach the game, right? Because there's a lot of different things we can talk about. Like, do Hearthstone streamers come over, even though they might get less viewers, but there's more money for tournaments? Is it just a pro player versus streamer thing? Like, what are you guys' thoughts?
I think a lot of people will try it out, especially in the first couple of months. I mean, I know I will. That's my plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it and it's like, it's a big Valve game coming out. Obviously, there's a lot of big names kind of behind this project that people are excited about. I think, yeah, like exactly what Swim said, you know, there's going to be people trying it out. And if it doesn't work for them, they're just going to either go back to their other game or look at something else for the future. I know Gwent, the next 2.0, I guess whatever it's going to be called, is coming out really soon. So, you know, Gwent streamers are probably going to look at that as well. And but I look at Artifact and I go, oh, this could be, you know, something really interesting and something that people really, really want to push forward with.
I think it depends a lot on the not the streamers, but the audience. I mean, will people want to play the game or will they want to watch the game? Thus is the enigma of streaming. For a lot of Hearthstone, it's this is going to sound really offensive, but it's not. Hearthstone guys, I love you. But yeah, Hearthstone's easy enough of a game to watch someone play it while playing it at the same time while, I don't know, make a sandwich. Like, it's just inherently, there's not a lot that you have to put into the game. You just
while on the toilet as well. You might as well throw that in there.
It's a good multitasking game. But for games like Artifact, typically games that, you know, are more fun to watch someone else play than play yourself are the ones that people like. And I think Artifact can be that because it's a stressful game. There's always shit going on. And I think it's where the people go, not so much the other guys. Guys that are in it for the money, they're never gonna last. I mean, they always say they'll go over and do shit for the money, but if they hate it, they hate it.
That's an interesting
They'll
point.
tear their apart.
That's an interesting point because my stance is that streamers that are popular will probably try it, won't get as good a viewership. Maybe they will originally, but over time, probably not as much as Hearthstone is my assumption. So they'll end up going back to Hearthstone or something of similar nature. Pro players, though, you can say they're doing it for the money because they will switch. I guarantee you they will switch to Artifact if they're good. Because there's so much more money in the scene. It's not even close to how much more money.
They're doing it for the competition, not for the money.
Yes, the Dota players are doing it for the competition.
Hey,
it's the competition.
Why not both, guys? Like,
Yes.
I think you're gonna find a lot of people really interested in. Yeah, they're gonna, do a large scale tournament. People want to be a part of something like that, especially that tournament has more prize money than I think most card games have ever seen. And that value is going to draw in people. And it might not keep everybody, but I think it'll keep a certain subset of those folks that are really enjoying the game.
I don't know, man. I mean, who cares, honestly, how many viewers it gets personally? I mean, it's like, look at Dota and League of Legends. League of Legends always beats out viewers, but Dota 2, at least, they're not a sexist company. I mean, it's just like, I'm saying, like, it doesn't matter. Viewership doesn't matter. What matters is quality of game, prize pool, and fun. And we don't have to be the biggest stream card game. I don't fucking care. It's all about, do we garner enough community? Let me tell you a story about streaming. Swim, you know about this. Is there a big difference between having 300 people watching your stream, but those are your loyal viewers, or 4,000 people watching it? For me, I don't see, a lot changing. You don't get that many more donations. You don't get that many more subscribers.
No, not really.
No, it's that loyal fan base that keeps you going. That's why Dota 2 is one of the best games in the world. We have the biggest esports prize pool, not because the most people play the game, because we have the most loyal and smartest people. So that's the kind of people that are going to be playing Artifact.
I love these backhanded freaking negs.
These are backhanded. These are facts.
Every sentence it Slacks.
I'd love somebody to dissect everything Slacks has said and just tally it up like a point system here.
That was just facts. There's a lot of things that Dota and Artifact. Well, Artifact, I'd like to talk about this later. Don't let me forget SUNSfan. I want to talk about their great rollout procedure. I think it's very cool comparative to how Valve has handled other games before.
Well, you can talk about it now if you want.
All right, fine.
We can segue.
So let me talk about the rollout procedure and how it's different than other games Valve has done before.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing really cool. Typically, Valve has this curtain of like, no one must know what's happening, delayed for unknown reasons. And now they're doing things like giving dumbasses card reveals, like SUNSfan over here, and I don't know, doing this PAX thing. It seems like they're being a lot more intuitive into the community and looking back into that. So it's very interesting. It's very positive behavior. That's one thing I will give a compliment to our competitors out there. Blizzard is amazing at that. So is Epic Games. They just see their community want to do things, and then they provide feedback and change it, whereas Valve has kind of struggled in that before. But I think they're changing things up for the Artifact. It's been pretty impressive so far.
Yeah, it feels very community-based in a lot of ways, which, I mean, Dota is to some respects, but there's this clear separation between Valve and everybody else, right? Where with the Artifact, it doesn't feel that way right now, which is super cool. It feels much more intimate, which I like personally.
I mean, I think that's a big reason why I think they're trying to push the game too. We look at, I don't really play Magic, but when I do, it's only with my friends, right? And if you're starting to build these communities and building these groups together, it's only going to be a positive feeling, amongst these people, right? And hopefully you have all these people kind of grow together, and maybe they are not interested in the competitive. Maybe they're not even interested in streaming, but I want to draft with my friends and have fun with that side.
Yep, totally agree. All right, so I wanted to talk. Actually, Swim wrote the mechanics that we can briefly talk about, and then we can start getting into more juicy stuff. I think maybe we save this first, the initiative stuff, for when we talk about Tidehunter, right? Because that was revealed yesterday.
Sure.
My heart. I keep forgetting. Tidehunter. You fool. Don't talk about Tidehunter.
It's all good. We can talk about stuff now. It's cool.
Okay, great.
I do want to talk about what everyone's opinion on mono decks, duo decks, tricolor decks, and the unseen, it seems, rainbow decks. Anybody want to explain what these are for the novices out there?
Take it, Smarty.
It's kind of the same pattern you see in something like Magic. You have kind of color mixing as a deck concept, so you can run like an all red deck, and that would be a mono red. Duo is mixing 2 colors, and tricolor is mixing 3 colors, and rainbow is being dumb, basically.
Hey, hey.
Okay, before we get started, does anybody think a rainbow deck? It's not going to work right now, but could it ever work?
What are you talking? I'm kicking the shit out of every person in this chat room with my rainbow deck. Aren't you glad I've played this? Is one of the greatest decks in Artifact. All right, that deck is dope. Okay. For those of you who are not familiar with that deck, it is a deck of 40 improvements only. That's it. You get the best improvements from all the different colors because improvements are Artifact centric. They're not like your typical card games, baby. I don't know that. Do other games have improvements?
They're kind of similar to Magic. Yeah.
Whatever. It's not the same. It's all improvements. And let me tell you, the trick of that deck is no one knows what the fuck is happening until it's almost over. And then there's this moment where they're mentally broken. They go, wait, why does the middle lane have 12 fucking... Wait a minute. And then the anger hits. I've beaten all 3 of you with that deck. I remember because I made a list. Rainbow decks can work.
I mean,
I don't think you've beat me. I think you're actually lying.
I don't believe me. I'll fight you right now.
I don't think Swim has ever played you before.
I've never played against that deck.
All right, we'll see.
I did play against one of Slax's decks entitled the Derpy Dozen.
Classic deck.
I need to commission Slacks to actually name my decks because I'm not very creative.
The problem is you have to name the deck first, and you have to build around that name. So
that's his process. That's his entire thing.
That's the problem with it. You might not get the deck name that you want.
Let me tell you, Leave It to Cleaver is not the greatest deck. There is a lot of cleave in there. All right, anyway, let's focus up. So we were talking about the viability of different colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, I feel like almost it's always more beneficial to have 2 colors than 1. I feel like having 3 colors is risky, but it can certainly work. And the rainbows are the rarest of gems, but they can win games. They can win games. It's just you set your own difficulty in Artifact. Do I want to be a moron? Black, red. Do I want to actually try to be a little bit of interesting? Maybe 3 colors, maybe 1 color. Do I want to be a god among men? Rainbow! Ride the rainbow, baby!
Does anybody agree with anything he just said?
Absolutely not.
Please continue. Elaborate.
Absolutely not. I think you're going to find the most viable decks, at least that I've seen, have been duo-colored or mono. I've seen some tri decks. I don't know if they really work. They're kind of more just I think people just trying things out and testing things out. And I believe Jake might be the only person I've ever seen run a rainbow deck, and it was aight.
Whatever.
Wait, you guys actually think
it's called a splash, right, Swim? A splash deck? A splash of blue or whatever?
Yeah, you use splash to refer to basically just like a small amount of a certain color. Like you splash an artifact would probably mean just 1 hero. So you could have like a green splash blue, which is 4 green, 1 blue.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I think they're viable. There's some cards that we can't talk about yet that their intrinsic abilities are good enough to just have them exist without any other cards from that color. No examples will be provided. However,
we're all thinking of the same cards right now.
If you're thinking, are you talking about signature cards then, or?
No, I'm talking about some cards' innate abilities are so good that sometimes just having a splash of them is not a bad thing with 3. But the standard will always be 2. I think that the most broken combos are going to be how does this like black interact with blue, and they complement each other really well. Mm-hmm. I have seen some mono greens though that are like better than anything else. The greens, baby.
I have to say, I think monos are very underwhelming personally. I don't know if that's just me. I think they're very one-dimensional and not great. Green might be the best of them, but I wouldn't consider them super viable. I think the duos are definitely the creme de la creme right now.
I think that the most interesting thing to kind of consider there, I think that analysis is probably correct. Like duo decks tend to be the way to go. But as the card pool expands, like future updates come, mono might have a bit of power creep because like as the card pool expands and you have more options within a singular color without having to reach to others, you do incur kind of less of the downside of the color casting system. Because in artifacts, uniquely, you can only play spells or improvements or creeps of here you have a color of, right? And being able to kind of eat that downside entirely with mono will be pretty strong in a bigger card pool.
Now, this is something I'm super interested in because, again, I've never played other card games, but seeing how they evolve from the initial set and then going in and finding how things get broken. Can you give me some examples of stuff like that in other games, Swim? What's like some ways that just like, something got completely effed? And do you see anything in Artifact that you think could go that way?
You mean in terms of something getting stronger than it should be, right?
Right, because they added expansion, and then one of the original cards just went off the rails. I mean, that's kind of always going to happen in games, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a different evaluation for like future potential rather than current potential. I can think of a couple cards in Artifact that would follow that pattern, although I can't really say them. However, honestly, mono color decks as a concept is a fairly decent example of that. Like. I personally predict in something like, I mean, duo decks are kind of the way to go right now. In something like 12 or 18 months, I think mono might have its time.
Try might even have its time. Now, there's a card that we're going to go over that somebody sent to us. It's not a real card, but it allows you to play colors of different variety, which
that's cool.
Would be super cool and make tricolors extremely viable, in my opinion, right?
I would love to see that kind of thing in the game.
Yeah, and I think as sets grow and as things, there might be multicolor, there might be other things we don't know yet, right? And I think there's a lot of speculation on what the next few sets are going to look like, and even what this set is, and it's going to be interesting to see how that grows. I also think mono is not as underviable as I think people say. I think mono can be really strong sometimes, currently in the game.
Okay. All right. So last thing before we start showing some cards, first the fake ones that people sent us that we think are super cool, and then the actual
future cards as
reveals.
We them.
What is everybody's favorite and maybe something that can be improved on thing in Artifact currently, without, of course, something that is already known to the public, because we can't really, do anything hardcore. Does anything come to mind? For me, my favorite thing, because of the 3-board system, being able to move around from board to board, the strategy involved in that, which ties in with aggro, feels unbelievably satisfying, I have to say. More satisfying than any card game I've ever played. So that's easily my favorite thing about Artifact right now.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a situation where you have to like leverage resources into the right places as opposed to just kind of generating the most resources. I think that's really cool. My personal pick would be the initiative system. I think that it creates, I mean, people like it, right? Like people on Reddit have talked about it. The strategy that it creates isn't necessarily apparent at first, though. I mean, a lot of what you get from initiative is the idea of, do you play for initiative or don't you, right? There's so many situations where if you overplay for initiative and try to commit to it for a turn where maybe it's not winning you the game, you're sacrificing the ability to play cards, right? When you take the early pass and play for initiative, knowing when to do that or not is really, really skill testing, like ridiculously so.
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing. Sorry, go ahead, Conrad.
No, please go ahead. Or do you want?
I think the coolest thing is Roshan. I like when the 4th board peels out and then all the cards have to go and fight Roshan.
We weren't supposed to talk about that.
We weren't. Nah, just kidding. But, no, I just feel like I like how it's set up with the system of 2 towers or an ancient. There's so many times that you feel like the game is over and you've abandoned that ancient lane and you're like, oh, goodbye, you'll be fine, 80 HP, no problem. And then just somebody comes up with some insane plan where they end up getting like 100,000 damage in one lane, So I just love that different system. I like different avenues for victory. I think it's pretty fun. So that's my favorite part by far. Not that I've played any other games, but go fish. And before we move on all the way, Swim, I have one more question for you. But go ahead, Conrad.
Let Conrad finish, please.
Fine.
I just said,
please, Conrad, continue. Don't let Slacks ruin your moment.
Go ahead, Conrad.
Please, Conrad, please. please.
Conrad,
thank
please.
you.
Conrad,
Thank you,
please.
guys.
I
Thank you.
don't have
Conrad, I
time.
beg of you,
Thank
please.
you.
Could you start? Just
Please,
Yeah. All right. Okay, I'll go.
Interrupt us if you have to.
Sure.
Whenever you want, you can just start.
Oh my god.
I think for me, it's actually kind of a combination of what Swim said and what SUNSfan said. It's kind of shifting expectations, I think. So, either that's moving around the board, deploying where somebody doesn't think you're going to deploy, and just kind of, I think I remember that game that me and Jake played at PAX, and there was like a move that you did, and I was genuinely super surprised by something that happened. And, when somebody does that, I think that's super interesting, and I felt like I've seen that more in these games than ever. And I think other card games that I've played, I kind of have a good idea of how their deck is going to go forward, what's going to happen, and Artifact kind of lets you. I call it like playing it's like playing jazz. You kind of get to go along with the flow a little bit. You get to try something you don't necessarily. You're thinking it on the fly, and you're coming up with something new.
That's a cool example. I like that.
Jazz is
I like it.
analogy for artifacts.
All right, Slacks, you had one more thing before we move on?
Swim.
Yes.
I know a lot about Hearthstone. I know a decent amount about Magic. I don't know shit about Gwent. Can you tell me just about Gwent in general? Like, what's the game like? What's it like to Artifact? Because I'm interested because every personality that I've met from Gwent that's been involved in the beta and stuff, they're all fucking great. I've not met one Gwent player where I'm like, well, this guy's a piece of garbage, where it's happened a lot with the other communities. But for Gwent, they've all been special, sweet little boys. What's going on over there? Why is it such a good game?
Honestly, it attracts a kind of. In some ways, it's a similar audience Artifact, and in some ways, it's very different. It's almost a similar style of gameplay because you're fighting for kind of 2 out of 3 warfare. You need to win 2 rounds instead of 2 lanes. And it's similar to Artifact just in that it basically tries to break the mold of what it means to be a card game. Like Hearthstone basically just took Magic the Gathering and simplified it and tried to market it to people that weren't really into card games and had a hard time getting into MTG. Well, no, like that's not
Got
even,
him, buddy.
That's not even shade. That's just like
Good
that's
one,
actually
Swim.
Good one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But Gwent and Artifact are both, Gwent more so 2 years ago, Artifact now, they're both really breaking the molds. Like they make you think differently from what you expect from a card game in a lot of ways.
Cool. All right.
right.
Sweet. Well, that's what I wanted to hear. Neat.
Actually, I do have one quick question. So I played Witcher, and I played Gwent in that. How different is Gwent in that compared to the card game itself?
It's pretty different. I mean, the standard gameplay is the same. You alternate playing cards, and then you play for a pass, but everything else is different.
Is it kind of, it's got like at least a lot of the flavor from that, or is it
Yeah,
just... Okay,
absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
Have you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh?
Cool.
Oh yeah, I loved Yu-Gi-Oh. I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh boy in high school. I had one other friend, and we would play Yu-Gi-Oh on the bleachers together. It was great.
Now, don't laugh, but I thought that this whole thing was a meme. I really thought that it was just a TV show and people were pretending like the card game was real until I'm talking like 2 months ago. I did not know that there was an attached card game. I thought people were just being hilarious. So I joined in there and be like, oh, the Shadow Realm, guys, I got trapped. And people be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But so that's real, which is cool. What's that like? How come is that? It's been around a really long time, hasn't it? Isn't that like one of the older card games besides Magic?
It is one of the older ones. It actually launched in I think 93 or so.
Wow.
Maybe it was a little later. But Magic the Gathering, basically came out a little bit first, and Yu-Gi-Oh kind of took that format, and tried to make it kind of more accessible in a bit of a way. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it. I don't know. It's been a roller coaster though. Like some people regard it as kind of like not a great competitive game.
Really? Is Pot of Greed that bad?
Yes.
Are people spamming Pot of Greed?
That's the only card I know because I used to watch the show.
I mean, the show will tell you what Pot of Greed does. It's true.
Pot of Greed allows me to draw 2 more cards.
Anyway. That's where that meme came from. Okay.
Yes.
That makes more sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, let's move on, my friends.
Let's
go on to the reveal section. Is everybody ready?
This
Okay.
is the juicy stuff.
Well,
The
this is gonna
juicy
take a
stuff?
while, man. This is gonna take a while because we got quite
Okay,
a list to go
one
through.
more note. Two
Okay.
more things about Yu-Gi-Oh. One, artifact. I will leak and confirm it does not have an Exodia card, and it's what I want the most.
What is Exodia?
I want you. Exodia is like you get 5 different cards. It's how Yugi beat Kaiba, bro. Don't you know?
No. Does it look
You get
like I
arm
know
of
anything about
Exodia,
this?
you get leg of Exodia, you get face of Exodia, 5
Face.
cards which spawns Exodia, and then he just fucking boom! He just cock blocks the
Oh,
whole game.
okay.
He ends it.
That's like a Hearthstone card as well, then, right? There's a similar one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
I want Artifact to have Exodia. I want it to be like leg of Gaben, arm of Gaben, back of Gaben. And then an animation of Gabe just comes out and he flips the fucking table over or whatever.
That would be
That'd
cool.
be so dope.
I'd like
Isn't
that.
that what Meepo is? You just play 5 Meepos and
5 Meepos?
yeah, win the game.
Is he revealed? I don't know.
Do you guys all have the stream on, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're gonna need to follow along this way. It's the best way, I think.
Oh, okay.
If you're listening to only audio, don't worry. We will describe them in full detail. So let us begin. So again,
Oh, no, wait, I have one more
God
point.
damn it, Slacks. We're changing subjects. No more
One more
Yu-Gi-Oh.
While we're on Yu-Gi-Oh, do you people have any idea what Artifact will become in 5 years? Valve has innovated in AR technology. I don't know if you've watched the International, but we have heroes that can appear on stage and do movements at any time. Now we have a card game, which maybe one day will be mobile. I'm talking about TI9, 2 dudes standing up there with a fucking sleeve going, I summon one of the heroes that has been revealed already. And then they fucking, wow, and they just come. It's coming. Yu-Gi-Oh! For real is coming. Valve Software are the only ones that can do it. I'm telling you guys.
I'm in. I'm
I'm
super
fucking in.
I'll watch
fucking in.
that.
I'm
All
sorry.
I can't wait to trap hot chicks in the Shadow Realm. I can't wait to fucking become an Egyptian god. I can't wait, guys.
Are we allowed to switch subjects yet, Slacks?
Hang on. For
Please.
someone who didn't know it was an actual
Please,
card,
no one's waiting for anything. Go.
you do know a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh. Sorry.
I watched the shit out of that show.
true.
I was actually watching YouTube videos about the show on Yu-Gi-Oh when I was in the Artifact beta because I thought everybody was making memes. So I went back and watched the whole
You
fucking
have to do your
series for the last
research.
couple
Yeah, it
months.
makes perfect sense.
I really thought people were just like, dude, this is just like Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, what episode are they talking about? I'm like, what is this shit? I'm not kidding. Like, I really just watched the entire thing, trying to figure this shit out. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, Conrad, before we move on, do you have anything to say about Yu-Gi-Oh?
I've actually not watched the show or played the game. So I really
Please,
actually have nothing to add.
Continue the conversation somehow, Conrad. Please extend
Really
it.
have nothing to add. I apologize.
That's too bad.
All right.
All right, so I think we are finally ready for reveals. Again, this is going to take a bit. So
Before we
the first 3 cards that we're going to do are fake cards. I need that to be very clear. They are cards that were submitted to us that we liked a lot. And again, just to to reiterate what I was talking about earlier, we have not picked the winners for this contest yet because it's taking forever. So we're just going to have to delay it a couple days. But these are the ones that we like a lot so far. And you guys can follow along on stream.
Big dick move it would be for us to just post real Artifact cards and be like, guys, these are just fake cards.
Yeah.
Queen of Pain.
All right, here we go.
Go
So you and I love this card, Slacks. Rubik the Grand Magus. It's a blue hero.
Hey.
He has 2 attack, 6 health. His continuous effect is called Arcane Expertise. The first spell you play this round can be played regardless of color. And his card, signature card, is a 0 mana spell steal spell. And it says this card is a copy of the last spell your opponent played, except its color is blue. What do you guys think?
This card was created by Prixt as well, by the way.
Yes, I can't read it here, so just keep doing that for the next 2. What do you guys think?
Prixt.
I think a spell steal at 0 mana seems pretty strong.
Well, no, you get the card.
Yeah, you get the card and it's whatever the mana cost is. Like, the card is in your hand and it turns into whatever the last played card is.
Got it.
By the
got
end.
it.
Yeah.
But in blue. No thoughts.
Interesting.
A
mean,
rousing discussion.
No, I mean,
I'm thinking.
I don't know. It just I wish I received these a little bit beforehand, to
Shut up.
No, this first reaction is the best reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of strong.
Yeah.
Blue has the ability to, do a lot of spell. Like it's already a spell-based kind of group, and if it gets spells from other things, I think that makes it even more strong. It is interesting though. I think this definitely brings viability to that tricolor that we were talking about earlier, and yeah, I think it's really interesting.
I think it's cool because of its. It only works if Rubik's alive, kind of like Crystal Bait,
Yeah.
So if you make it your priority to kill that Rubik in that lane, that's very cool. And that's another thing that I love about this game is like different cards being specifically better in different lanes. I think is super neat. Like having a Zeus in lane 1 so that he can thunder strike everyone else and clear out the other ones. Whereas if he was deployed in lane 3, you'd never get the chance. So it combines two very cool things that I like in the game.
I think I actually think this is pretty well designed in a lot of ways. I love spell steal. I think it's like pretty great design. It's pretty balanced. It kind of gives the opponent options for counterplay because the thing about the signature cards is they're in the deck, right? Because you can see the hero. So if you see Rubik, then maybe you're kind of wary about what spells you're playing and giving him on the next turn, right? Spell steal is amazing design. I think his passive is probably a little too abusable though, giving you access to other colors that cheaply.
Yeah. I do like the flavor. I think it like really.
What does it taste
feels
like, Conrad?
Nails it.
Delicious. I think it just like really. Yeah. Will you make it is the question. But I think for me, I think the most interesting part is that it really brings. This card feels like Rubik from Dota, which I think is always a really important thing, especially when you're creating cards that already exist or around heroes that already exist within the game. I think this card screams Rubik to me, which is always a really nice feeling.
All right. Again, these are not real cards, friends.
These are not real.
The next one is also not real. It is Sand King. He's a black hero with 4 attack and 7 health. He has a reactive ability called Caustic Finale. Deal 3 piercing damage to enemy neighbors when a unit blocking Sand King dies. His signature card is the 5-mana spell Burrow Strike. Move a black hero to another lane. Stun its enemy neighbors this round. That one's very strong, by the way.
I was about to say, it's like...
Very strong.
Whew, that's a lot of damage, but I love the concept of it. I think it really brings once again, it feels like the card in the game, or it feels like the hero from Dota. Burrow Strike's really interesting. Moving from lane to lane, I think is a really cool concept, and stunning its enemy neighbors. I could see it.
It should probably stun only the one player, maybe, or one.
Yeah, and even then, I think that's pretty strong. Like
6 mana
deploying it. Yeah, or it says 5, I think, but
I know if it was 6 mana.
6 mana, yeah, something like that. But like, I think the concept of moving from lane to lane and like, you're able to use those any black hero. So keeping it locked to black, I think is really important as well.
I think it's cool. I like those kind of artificial timers that the game sometimes puts on. For instance, like a bristleback. And sometimes people are going to die. But if it's in front of a bristleback, you don't want that dude to die. You'll make special sacrifices to make sure that doesn't happen. So I like cards that do that. And having a caustic 3 piercing damage when the unit in front of it dies, it affects how your enemy plays on like a on a, a meta level, I guess. So those are cool to me. So I really like this one. But
yeah, man, it nails the flavor. Like the 3 piercing damage does definitely need to be toned down a bit. Although I do like the kind of incentive it creates. Like if it was lowered to something like more along the lines of 1. I mean, I think it's really got the right idea. Both effects need to be toned down a bit, though.
Yeah, I agree. But I love the idea. All right. This next one is the final fake card we're revealing. I like how I'm saying we're revealing the fake card.
The fake finalist.
This one, Slacks in particular, absolutely loved. It is Roshan. He's a red hero. 6 attack, 2 armor, 20 health. He has a reactive ability called Curse of the Immortal. The death effect of the hero is add Aegis of the Immortal to your opponent's hand. Aegis of the Immortal is a 25 gold item, and it reads, equipped hero has damage immunity and rapid deployment. He also comes with 3 mana spell called Slam. Choose a red hero, deal 2 damage to its enemy neighbors.
This card is so fucking cool. You have this gigantic meat cake in a red deck, which, you know, reds don't have too many ways to like move around and stuff. They're all about power, so we picked the color perfect. And if you kill him, you get this huge reward for your game that could potentially win you the game. It's like this super all-in card. I love it. And there's only a few cards like Coup de Grace or Apios's Blade that would allow you to just like straight up kill the character and be terrible. But it's so neat. I love the idea of putting in a card where if it dies, you're fucked. It's so cool.
Yeah, I like that concept too, where you have something, but if you don't protect it or you provide a negative feeling for it, it ends up being much more injured and like hurts you in the long run. I think, especially with the agents, like that is a really cool card. It's particularly the item card.
Yeah, I mean I actually love this kind of effect, and I'd like to see more of this kind of thing in game. A lot of other card games kind of have these like, undercosted, overstated units that have this like downside when they die, and it creates this like mini quest for the opponent basically, where they're really heavily incentivized to kill it, and if they can't, they get punished. If they do, they get rewarded. I think that like mixing up incentives like that is great.
Isn't that cool too, though? You get to like, you know that they're on a mini quest to kill a card, so you do the counter mini quest to like have them all in on a card and then ruin that, which ruins the whole game. It's freaking great. Yeah. Except I hate this card because of fucking Phantom Assassin. Always. That card ruins everything. Coup de Grace, the most broken goddamn skill in this stupid game. Remove the skill. It's so goddamn dumb. But now it's kind of cool because you're playing a Roshan deck and then you're like, oh, Christ, they got PA. I'm screwed. Like, that's kind of fun. So, but I hate it. PA is garbage.
Just for everyone out there, the reason that Slacks hates PA so much is because of me. All right, so we're going to move on now.
Because this asshole.
All right, so these are the reveals that were...
Not a single deck without PA for this piece of shit.
These things were... That's not true. Well, partially true. Okay. These are actual reveals that were announced a couple days ago. So we're going to start with the one that was announced by the Play Artifact Twitter. 7 mana, Champion of the Ancient, Creep, 2 attack, 6 health. I don't remember if I mentioned it was green, but it's green just in case I didn't. The play effect is modify this creep with 1 attack, 1 health,
no, this is
and
a real
1 cleave for each enemy.
This is real. Everyone thinks this is still fake. No, this is a real card. This is a real card.
Yeah, real card. What do you guys think of this card? Now, I was told it's okay if we say if we like it or don't like it based on our actual experiences. So that's fine.
Shit! This card sucks!
Yeah, this card blows.
This card sucks! Dude, what the fuck? Are you in a situation where it gets more than like, let's say somebody has a swarm deck. There's like goddamn literally 30 dudes in this deck, and then you're like, here comes Champion of the Ancient, baby. He gonna hit the guy in front of him, and 1 dude to each side. Gotcha, baby. For 100 million damage. Who fucking cares? It's so stupid.
I will say
the only way this card is good.
It's not good and constructed, but it might be good in other stuff that we
this
can't.
Card sucks.
Yeah, other stuff. Slacks. Think of the other stuff.
I think for seven mana, that's where I think it really hurts. I just look at that, and to get the maximum potential out of the effect, it just, you feel like you put yourself in such a terrible position. I think.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah,
sorry, Slacks. No, please.
If somebody offered to give me 5 Champion of the Ancients or 1 Thunderhide pack, I choose the fucking 7 mana Thunderhide pack every goddamn time. This thing sucks.
Yeah, the mana cost does hurt, no doubt.
I think that it's important to understand for those of you guys who look at that mana cost and maybe think this card is like more on the level. From something like a Hearthstone perspective, 7 mana is more late game in this deck than it would be, in Artifact than it would be in something like Hearthstone, because there's 3 kind of turns per mana increase, right? Like 7 mana is very late game. It's something that kind of needs to be able to win you the game.
I could see some funky stuff with this card, and like it could potentially work in, I think, constructed. But every attempt that I've done with it has been not the best.
This could be one of those cards that ends up being really good in an eventual later expansion when cards are just added in that somehow amplify its power in some respects. So
if somehow having more enemies is a good thing for you. This card is really gonna shine.
All right, next card, also revealed by the Play Artifact Twitter. Arcane Censure, a 4-mana black spell. Modify the enemy tower with -1 mana.
This card sucks.
This card sucks.
Yeah, as much as I don't like the card, I think I like the concept of it. Being able to slow down your opponents, especially I think we saw, imagine you're playing some of the decks from PAX, and, Time of Triumph, and suddenly it doesn't pop on the same turn that they thought it was, right? That could provide some value, but it's kind of slow. I don't.
Yeah, that's the main problem, is that it's very like I agree with completely. The idea is great, and in theory, you're like, oh, this would fit great with this deck, especially against this, whatever mana cost that they're trying to go for, like the 7 mana for blue or whatever. But actually executing it feels real difficult.
Yeah, I never feel real good when I'm like, surprise, blue deck, -1 mana. It's like, okay, I'll see you next round. Thank you. Thanks for spending 4 of your mana, you idiot. I will say this is a very important card, though. Have you guys ever been in a real fist fight before in real life, like a real fight?
I have not.
People always think, go for the groin. Don't do it. You try to grab this guy's dick and he's gonna fucking pummel your face. This is what happens if you're in a real fist fight and you try to grab a guy's dick. He's gonna punch you in the back of the head. Dude.
I guess we didn't really speak about the art. The art is amazing. Rubik is getting destroyed by Silencer.
He thinks he can grab onto his schlong and make it out of there. It's not gonna happen. He's fucking dead. The guy's dead. Kick the groin. Do not try to grab it. That's too close if you're in a real fight.
I mean, I feel like this card has potential to be good as well if there's a bunch of other cards that accompany it that can, make it synergize well in some respects, but it's tough to say right now.
It sucks. It's not hard to say. It fucking
Moving
sucks.
on.
I'm with Slacks on this one.
Moving on to another card revealed by the Play Artifact Twitter. Now, this one I think you guys will like. It's a 4-mana blue spell called N1 for Me. Choose a hero, put a base copy of a random item equipped by that hero into your hand.
I have a deck called Double Trouble that is based around this card completely. What people might not realize, seeing this from the first time, put a copy of a random item in your hand. Most people consider that for enemies. You can do it for yourself too, which means that if you have a deck that's mostly based on just making 25 gold super fast, you get to clone your own item and put it on again. And these are like game-breaking items. You get to do that 3 times if you're super lucky. Yep. It is so good.
Before you guys go in, can I tell a little story?
Sure.
It's going to talk about a very small mechanic that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but it is something that we talked about at PAX on stream. And this is how Slacks knows about this card, by the way, because I ran a gold deck, right, with the old payday, doubling my gold left, right, and center, but I combined it with blue.
Oh my
because
fucking
of
God.
this card.
I'm so
and
goddamn
one for
angry.
me, I get a Thunderhide. What are they called? The actual item?
Horn of the
Alpha. Sorry, you
Horn
get
of
a
the
Horn of the
Alpha.
Alpha. You put it on. Let's say this is the scenario where I made him rage quit. I have one hero in this lane, okay, and he thinks he's real hot shit, right? Because his tower has like 30 HP, like 25 HP. I put a Horn of the Alpha down on this hero. I pop it. We're good to go. That's 14 damage to the tower. He's like, oh, he can't do anything else. That's fine. Well, guess what, motherfucker? Slacks. And one for me. And one for me. Copy that. I put it on the same hero. It destroys the old Horn of the Alpha, but it allows me to activate Horn of the Alpha again, and I win the game, thus creating the rage quit opportunity for Slacks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. Oh, you're so smart, son. Great red
All right,
black
continue,
pick.
please.
You're a fucking genius. Oh my God. Anyway, it is a really, really strong card. It's a lot of fun. And the possibilities are endless. This is, I think, the one card that can, the first time I've seen like an artifact super rush deck, where it's just like round 2, 2 Horn of the Alphas, 3 Horn of the Alphas, game's over. But go ahead.
This card is very competitive. It's on the level. I would say the biggest way to describe like why this card is really good is because card games often boil down to kind of like a rock paper scissors relationship. For example, in something like Magic, you have kind of the aggro triangle, which is like mid range beats aggro, control beats mid range, aggro beats control, and any tools that one of the challenges with deck building is you kind of will eat some level of kind of rock paper scissors relationship. So if you're in a matchup where your deck archetype is inherently unfavored, this card kind of allows you to be very flexible in terms of giving you exactly what you need within that matchup, right?
Yeah.
Like you use it for something kind of that helps you survive in matchups where you just need to survive. You use it for a big finisher when you need that. The flexibility of this card is really strong.
Yeah. I totally agree. Going back to some of the more beta stuff, I think there was a time where Jake's favorite archetype, Black Red, was very, very popular. Generated
he played
a lot
Black
of gold.
Red too?
Oh, dude, one of my favorites.
Hmm.
And I think there was these gold generating decks. Utilizing Payday, trying to get these top items, and then this was kind of the first one that was discovered to kind of counter those decks. And what Swim was talking about is you don't necessarily need to be running these gold decks. You are just piggybacking off
Right.
opponents and all their kind of stuff, and now you're pulling in, and now the playfield's completely even, and now you're stronger than ever. I thought that was one of the more interesting times, kind of during the beta when people were figuring it out.
Of course, the thing to keep in
Also-
mind that it is a random item on that hero. So if you have more than one equipped, you have to take that 50-50 or the 33%, right? Which I've had to do occasionally in dire circumstances.
Oh, that's crazy. I would never take that chance. Jeez. If someone has a sword and a Horn of the Alpha,
Why do you
you're
have
going to take
such
that
trouble
50-50?
saying short sword?
You guys could just say that. Swim hit me.
Short sword?
Oh,
Short
shit.
sword.
Short
it,
sword.
Okay.
Is it like a tongue twister?
For him,
Well,
it
I
is.
have an accent.
I was going to mention that.
Anyway.
Yes, of course.
What was I talking about? Oh, right. Now, this card is very good against Roshan. If the other guy gets the Aegis, the 25 Aegis, you just
Yeah,
copy it back, and then you
that's
put
true.
it back on Roshan. Roshan gets his own Aegis. That's crazy.
That is pretty
That's
good,
fucking
actually.
crazy.
That's actually very next level. I like it. I like
The
it.
card doesn't exist, but I'm already thinking about the meta. That's
Man,
how far
If
ahead I
Valve is
am.
watching, they need to put Roche in the game immediately. Okay, next card was revealed. Was this today? I believe by
Yes, this was.
Rob AJG.
He's cool. I like
It
that
is
guy.
a 5-mana green spell. Condemn all equipped items.
Oh, I love this card so
Ooh.
much. This is
Do
the
you?
biggest fucking cock block card in existence. You just let them now green decks are all about I play them sustainability. Green decks survive. They go. And sometimes you're going to lose some stuff. You're going to lose some money. I love this card. Looking at somebody's disappointment when they drop that Horn of the Alpha and they're just like, here comes the big, oh, and then everything goes away. God, it feels so good. And then you guys also, if you destroy an item that provides something like health, let's say that they have an item, a Stonehall Cloak was revealed, right, at PAX?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were
So
obsessed with
let's say a
Stonehall.
Stonehall Cloak, and they have a bunch of added HP. If you destroy that item, they die. So sometimes you
Well,
just play this in the lane
possibly
and
die. Yeah.
everybody just dies because they think you're so rich. This is a working man's card, all right? Been down in the dirt. I ain't the 1%, and then boom, get fucked. 1%, gotcha. Drain the swamp. Corrosive Mist.
Looks like you're going into the swamp.
Have
I
you
think
guys seen anybody play this? I actually have never seen this played, or maybe once actually.
I've played it. Because
Consistently?
after I was talking about that meta where everybody's doing all these copying and kind of doing that. This is the counter to that.
Right.
These two cards are actually very synergistic, I think, in terms of like and one for me and Corrosive Mist is once people start copying these big ones, just wipe it out when they show up with 2 Horn of the Alphas and they put them both down on that same turn. Just it's gone now.
You copy
done.
their Horn of the Alpha and then you destroy theirs.
If you're playing
Oh,
green-blue,
Yeah.
but
That
I don't
wouldn't
think I
make
was
any
playing
sense.
green-blue at that time.
why would you copy it and then let them activate it and then destroy it? You're a madman.
No,
Right?
you don't. They might not necessarily activate. Nobody like SUNSfan said. Very few people I think have ever actually played this card. I think.
Yes.
In the game.
Very rare.
But but I have it in a few of my green decks for sure.
The payback for the troll is worth it. I have it in every green deck. Just seeing somebody, I don't care if I win, I care about making the other person sad. And this is the ultimate sad card. It's so good.
Yeah, I've tried this as well. It's not bad. It's basically like a tech option. It's good in certain matchups. I think like one thing to understand about how to build around this card is it incentivizes you to kind of go for big items, the slack strategy, because you play something like your own Horn of the Alpha or whatever, and while you're just saving up gold, not buying items, this kind of symmetrical effect can basically be much more skewed towards the opponent.
I love it.
It's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, right? Because it does destroy your own items as well. So it is an interesting one. I will admit there's a few cards that I'm just not sure about because I haven't tried them and I haven't felt like trying them. This is one of them. But it has a very cool effect for sure. Okay, so let's move on to the hero that was revealed yesterday by Savich. Tidehunter, red hero, 2 attack, 1 armor, 18 health. He comes with the Ravage ability. It has a 4-round cooldown. Stun Tidehunter's enemy neighbors this round, and each other enemy has a 50% chance to be stunned this round. Let's talk about this before we move on to his signature card. What do you guys think of this
card sucks!
No, we gotta have some words, Slacks.
You're gonna find, I think, two sets of parties here: the Seraction Slacks party and I think the Swim party. I think I'm somewhere in between, but
I'm in between as
definitely.
well.
I think there's a lot of extremists on this card.
Yeah.
Start off, Swim. Hit me.
Okay, so to start off, I don't think this card is like OP, but I think it is definitely like a competitive potential card. The first thing about Ravage is with a 4 cooldown, you're pretty much going to be using that once per game, but the effect this can have if you play around it is very, very strong. Like it can usually just win out a game in the late game, even without really getting lucky. And its card, which we haven't pulled up here yet, but when we get to it, his card is really what makes this.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Wait, what? What?
We haven't.
We haven't. That hasn't
I haven't
been...
put up the card. Well, it has been revealed. I just haven't put it up yet because I want to talk about Ravage and Tide.
And I think Ravage is one of those things where I think it really, there's a very high chance that you're probably gonna have Tidehunter up on the turn that Ravage is up. He's just got a lot of HP. The armor even prevents even more damage from coming in. So if he's in front of creeps, like there's no way. But when you actually be able to hit Ravage, it can very much slow down opponents, and I think especially if it's in the right lane, I think it can be really, really strong.
So what I will say is my opinion of Tidehunter, if we're not including his card at the moment, is that based on his stats and his ability, he is below average on all accounts. I think Ravage, like Swim said, is used once a game, sometimes twice. A lot of times, repositioning is extremely important for this hero. Like having Blink Dagger, being able to move from one lane to another, or Phase Boost, as we saw at PAX, being able to move to a different side of the lane. If you don't have that luxury, like let's say you're going against the lane that's super wide, you have tons of creeps against you, you're taking a 50-50 chance in a lot of cases of stunning the heroes, which feels really bad for, like, that's his entire purpose in the game is to get that Ravage off in a very crucial moment, and to have a 50-50 chance really feels god-awful a lot of the times,
Boom. Why leave it to chance? That's why this hero sucks.
I will say one other thing about this card.
All right.
Because you play 3 heroes in round 1, 1 hero in round 2, and the last hero in round 3 in a game, it is kind of an important deck building niche that you have like a kind of card that maybe isn't really stats oriented. There's a few of these in the game, and I'm not sure which ones I can actually mention, but Tidehunter is a good example of that. Like his stat line matters less if he comes out in round 3. You get Ravage like 2 turns from then. You're feeling it.
That's a good point.
All
right,
the hero's only good. Hero is only good if every item in your deck starts with the word Stonehall. That's the only time I've ever seen this hero be good.
It sounds like a meme, but it's actually kind of true because he's always around and he always gets that extra tick. It feels pretty good if you get that early on. I'll agree. So his signature card, is the 1 mana spell Kraken Shell. Modify a red hero with +1 armor and get initiative. Very strong card.
Also, as for 1 mana, this card is amazing. I think getting initiative back, and we were talking about earlier, Swim talking about how important and how unique that factor is within this game. I think we're going to see a lot of people. I think that's one of the hardest things to teach people. And when you see these cards that allow you to get initiative back, I think it's going to really change the way people look at the game and realize, oh, I need to look at some of these cards and put them in my deck because of how much value it brings back to me.
Oh yeah, initiative is. I mean, it has the potential to just win you the game out, right? And with a card like this that says get initiative, I mean, one of the best ways to answer it, like in a deep meta where everyone is kind of playing for like that last turn initiative to just win the game, the best answer to it is to kind of play more of it to counter it, right? Like you see both people bringing the card like this.
And remember, modify is permanent, so that's actually another important point. Obviously, initiative is the biggest part of this card, but if you, if you compare this to Keep the Bold's 5 mana, modify 1 attack, 1 armor, this one gives you 1 armor.
I was literally about to bring that up.
Mana,
I mean, it's a
very 5 mana sucks.
But 1 armor, but 1 attack too.
And I you have to look at the stat lines I think as well, right?
Yeah,
Keep the Bold obviously can bring different things to the table. I think it's unfortunate that's one of the few heroes that doesn't have an ability. And I think that's also kind of interesting is that, how are you going to fit these into the decks? But I could see Tidehunter definitely being one of those, we're talking about splash heroes or like heroes that fit into different style of decks, or maybe it's something you want to splash. Tidehunter is great.
Yo, you slap a short sword on this, it eats creeps all day.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
You get it to 4. You get it to 4. It feels good. It feels really good.
I will say that if the easiest way for me to tell if I'm playing against an artifact player that has any idea what they're doing is that they always have some kind of card in their deck that says get initiative. That's it. I mean, that just means that they're ready to roll on something. It also, though, means that they're tryhards and they're easy to beat. So tryhards are very easy to beat an artifact. You just have to pretend like you're stupid. And then they do initiative. They think that you have a plan. I don't have a goddamn plan, fool. Get initiative. And then they waste those cards early. And then you just go for the late piece of cake.
You're playing high-level jazz here, I think,
They're playing fucking Tidehunter. Everything's going to be fine. Satan will make sure that 50% gets me through it. Thank you, Dark Lord. I'll be okay. Take your initiative. All right? Whatever.
All right. So with that, amazing end, I think we can end finally with the actual card reveal of the day.
Oh. Dun, 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 dun. And the real card.
His name.
The real card.
His name, as you might have guessed, is Centaur. Warrunner. The red hero, 4 attack, 14 health. He comes with Return, which is a continuous effect to retaliate. It's the same as Legion, I know. But it's okay. He has a shit ton more HP. Let's just talk about this alone, and then we can talk about his card, which I really love. Okay? Please continue.
It's your card. Talk about it.
I was thinking you were going to go off on this.
Monologue, go.
So what I'm going to say about this card is when I first started playing, I really wanted to try a deck around him, but I was really bad at the game, so I couldn't figure it out, right? And now that I'm much better at the game, I haven't really been playing with that much, honestly. But I will say one thing. Of the heroes that have been revealed, actually, I can just say this flat out. I think he's the 3rd best red hero.
Whoa.
So I know this. You guys are gonna think I'm crazy.
This card sucks.
So we have Axe. I rank as number 1, Legion as number 2. I think Centaur's the 3rd best, and I think Bristleback is a little bit overrated at number 4. That's my rank list.
I think it's always hard to put ranked lists like that because it really depends on the deck that you're building, right? Like that. True. I think all those cards can be.
We all know Axe is number 1.
Yeah, let's be real.
Let's be real.
I actually don't.
Let's be real right now.
You're probably not wrong, actually.
Yeah.
I actually might agree with that one. I might agree with that one. I think everybody's got an Axe at number 1. But looking at this card, I think you're able to kill creeps. You're doing damage to heroes, especially some of the lower HP heroes like that you see in black. With the retaliate, you're ending up taking these heroes out in one turn, and that's huge value. we'll talk about more. I think his signature card after, but I think it's really interesting to kind of see.
Yeah, I can bring up. We've
like
already tweeted it out, so I'm just going to bring
Let's
up the
do
signature
it.
card now.
Oh, well, what?
This is what makes it interesting.
His signature card is a 1 mana spell, Double Edge. Give a red hero plus 8 attack and minus 8 armor this round.
God, this card's so fucking good.
It's
this
good
card
card.
is so
This card is
incredible.
Yeah.
And you don't think it's good. You read that and you're like, Jesus, minus 8 armor, so you make him a glass cannon. SUNSfan, tell him about it, baby.
All right, so there's a couple things, and I'm sure Swim can. I know he's recently played a lot of Centaur, so he can elaborate onto this. But first and foremost, return. The important thing to note, and we mentioned this at PAX, the way that Retaliate works is it's a different instance of damage, right? So against armor, it's not great. Let's say a Zeus has 7 health and 2 armor, right? Centaur is going to be doing 4 damage to him with the attack minus the 2 armor, so that's 2 attack, and then the instance of return, which is a Retaliate, does 0 damage, in fact. But which obviously Retaliate's terrible against armor, but against negative armor, it is unfucking believable. So you do 4 damage plus 2 if Zeus has negative 2 armor, let's say, plus an additional 4 from just Retaliate, because it's a different instance. So very cool against negative armor. So Double Edge, the reason it's really good, well, first of all, obviously it stacks. So you guys seen the instances where you put 3 on one hero and you just hit that tower, just beat the shit out of somebody. You can also use it on an enemy hero to lower their armor to be able to kill them if they're already killing your hero or something like that. There's a lot of cool instances with this card that feels very, very good, for sure.
The card is so interesting because of that one word. A red hero. Doesn't have to be your red hero. It could be their red heroes. And it's freaking amazing to have a Centaur in like a blue deck with a Zeus. You just do 1 damage, play 1 card in this, which is totally manageable because it has 1 mana, and you just insta-kill a hero. And let me tell you how many goddamn times SUNSfan has played a game with me. I think I'm winning. My tower has 30 HP, and this asshole puts, for 3 mana, 8, 16, 24 fucking damage on 1 tower. What am I supposed to do against that?
It's one of those cards that's really powerful when you know that the enemy has already spent all their mana and there's nothing they can do. And you just have a red hero just sitting alone, hitting a tower, right?
Or if they have no heroes in the lane.
Yeah, empty lanes.
Yeah.
I think, and that's kind of the more interesting thing, you're baiting out spells. We're talking about initiative and like knowing when to pass. And this is one of those cards I think it's really important to know, because if you play this immediately once the turn starts, you have -8 armor. They do some spell or just some sort of attack that hits you for 2 damage. Like boom, that's 10 damage right there immediately off the top. Like it's insane how much the knowing when to play this at the right time is important.
Excuse me, 28 damage because of Centaur's original 4 damage. So yeah. 28 damage for 3 goddamn mana. Okay? Yeah. That's real fun when they start with 3 of these in the first hand and no creep is blocking. Let me tell you, good times.
Well, it
maybe
also
there
says,
should be a freaking mulligan.
It also says for the round, right? So if you have -8 armor plus however much more, if you've stacked them on, you're going to have that for the rest of the entire round. So let's say you're in the first lane, you use it.
Oh, yeah.
If they're in the second lane or the third lane, they have a spell that can work across lanes, you will get destroyed as well. So it is the true meaning of Double Edge. That's why I love this card so much. It's feels good in Dota, feels good in Artifact as well.
I agree.
Swim, you've had a lot of experience with this hero.
Oh, I have actually. The best way to use this, and the thing that feels best, is when you play this against red. It's like you guys said, you can use it on their hero, but super reliable. Something like round 1, your 2 red heroes spawn across from each other, on the same lane, but maybe they're hitting creeps. You just use it on their hero. Your creep just destroys them. This is
true.
This is a super, super common scenario. It's just like in that situation, use just 1 mana, deal 8 damage. You can just eat heroes in round 1. It's basically like an anti-red card. It does great if both players are running red.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the all-in strat though, because sometimes I've been in a game where I have stacked 2 of these on a red hero for fun because I thought it'd be funny, and then they had a card which killed the creep in front of them, and then I felt real dumb. So I like the all-in aspect. It's a lot of fun.
All right, cool. I think we have finished the podcast, my friends. Congratulations, you've made it to the end. Let me bring back the screen with our faces. There we go. So thank you for joining us. I'll let you guys have some last words, but of course you can follow us on Twitter, SUNSfan TV, Conrad Jansen. And can we talk about your Twitter handle, Swim? It's Swim Strim. Is it just Stream incorrectly spelled. Is that what it is?
A strim. You guys don't know a strim?
Yeah, you guys don't.
No,
What,
these
you
guys
don't
are
know
fucking
you're not-
normies.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it, dude.
Strim?
You get me. Yeah.
All right, tell me.
This is-
You've
That's
never
what I
watched a
do.
strim before?
That's my job. I'm a streamer. I professionally stream on
Okay,
Twitch.
no, all right.
He does a couple strims.
It turns out I did
Listen,
understand. It's just
Yeah.
at the same time I don't.
You're just not hip. You're not hip with the kids. I think that's your problem.
I'm an old
these
man.
days.
I guess.
He's
That's
a
true.
normie. All right.
All right. Any last words, my friends, before we bid everybody adieu?
I like
Everybody
all these
thinks
card
this. Hold
reviews.
on. Everybody's saying this means dick in Russian. This is nix. It's just it looks backwards to you. Okay, just saying. I got a couple tweets.
That's on you.
SUNSfan's
That's
This
classic
is an
dick
official
shirt.
Dota shirt. It does not
He
say
loves it.
dick. All right. Anywho,
So-
please.
I like all the slow card reveals. I think they're a lot of fun. I can't wait till you guys get more cards because it makes my life a lot less stressful because these podcasts scare the fuck out of me.
Yeah, it's
Not
scary.
knowing what I can talk about or not. So the slow reveal is very nice, but let me tell you, it is killing me inside. Just reveal all the cards already. All right, I'm freaking out over here. I almost leaked like 7 different cards in this
Oh, God,
particular
me too.
podcast. Jesus. All right,
I was so
let's go.
close.
I was so close.
Conrad.
Anyway,
No, thank you for having me. I actually really enjoyed seeing what cards people come up with. I think there's a lot of interesting potential things, especially with not, talking about Jake is like, there's not that much revealed at this time. And so people are coming up with all these cool concepts. So I'm very excited to see what happens there. And then I'm excited to see, have the fans enjoy and get to check out more of these heroes, more of these cards coming out and see what happens.
Strim. End us, my friend.
Slacks kind of said my thing. I mean,
Yeah.
more card reveals. I'm really glad that they're pumping out these card reveals. They're doing like almost one a day right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
More
I
than that,
mean,
I think.
it's just a lot to talk about. It's kind of nice being stuck for so long without being able to say anything.
Yeah.
Now we can actually start communicating about how good or bad some of these cards are.
Indeed.
I think
All
my
right.
favorite part is that everybody thinks some card, there's like Tidehunter, for instance. Some people think it's really good. Some people think it's really bad.
All right,
And I think we're gonna.
let's be real. Not to get off on a tangent. There's no way Tidehunter is amazing. He can be good.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no world he's amazing. There's zero. It's just not. Come on. Let's be real.
But that's
true.
what I'm saying. I think there's going to be a lot of cards that are going to be revealed. Going to have a lot of conversation around them.
Yes.
And a lot of people who are familiar with both cards. One person's going to say this card is one of the best cards, and there's another person that's going to say this card is terrible.
And not to say that
And
we're
that's-
going to be right every time either, because
And that's
small
to me the
sample
most
size.
interesting part of our artifact is that everybody's opinion right now is both right and wrong.
very true.
No,
very
this
true.
sounds a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna make a deck built on Tidehunter and whatever that card -1 mana is. That really sucks. I'm making
Yeah,
it,
only-
guys.
Make decks that are
Alright.
only revealed.
I'll go 4 colors.
Reveal
Revealed
deck.
decks. Dope.
Excellent. All right, friends. Until next time, we're signing out. Have a good one. We'll see you.